Hello and welcome to Wyrd Wessex. My name is Andy.
And my name is Craig.
What are we talking about today, Craig?
Well, today, part of our month of Halloween episodes, we're going to be covering creepy dolls. Now, despite several attempts from Pixar and Disney to show us that toys coming to life is not scary, we do remain fearful. So much so we've decided we need to record in the daylight.
Yeah, they're not convincing me of that. They're not convincing me of that.
Hey, hi there, little fella. Come out here. Do you know a way out of here?
Horrifying. Equally would be equally as horrifying seeing Woody walking around as well, though. They're all creepy. Um, the fear of dolls does actually have a proper name. It's pediophobia, which is classified under broader fear of humanoid figures, being automatonophobia, and related to puppophobia, which is a fear of puppets. Though in most cases, I don't think people really fear them. They're just sort of seen as really creepy. There's a toy museum in London called Pollux, and the last room is full of dolls, and visitors often make their way back to the entrance rather than go past that room. The exit's right there, but they'll rather walk back through the whole museum to get away from the creepy dolls.
Quite keen to visit that now, to be
I
honest.
think we got to. I think we got to. You go first.
Spend the night.
You know what? It would be creepy, but also kind of cool. Like if you strategically place lights, give that lovely flickering, did that thing just move kind of vibe.
So I've compiled a few stories to tell throughout this episode. The first one's not quite so scary, but I think it's worth including. So they'll get better as we go along. Do you remember those Sesame Street Tickle Me Elmo dolls?
Yes, I do.
So I couldn't find much information on this one. This is quite brief, but there's a story I found where it was a bit more threaten me Elmo. As there was a 2-year-old in Florida named James, right? And he's got an Elmo, and it could be programmed to remember the kid's name. So the parents program his name, James. However, this boy's Elmo just kept uttering the phrase, "Kill James."
Oh, that's amazing.
Yes. I tried to find backup information about, whether the company did anything about it or anything, but there was never any follow-up stories. But I had to include that one.
Horrifying that would be, like the first time, or when it says it repeatedly. In my head, when I'm making the short film about it, sort of the little pulley thing gets stuck, so it's just on repeat going, "Kill James, kill James."
Pretty terrifying. As I said, I'd start lightly. And that was just a brief sort of side note that I've shoehorned in. But the proper story I was going to start with was about a possessed Elsa doll.
Ooh,
Are
okay.
you aware of Elsa from Frozen?
I am. I am.
Yeah.
I work with kids. I had it filling my ears for about 3 solid years. Back in like
There's
2017, 2016 or something.
I believe there's another film on the way, so it's not over yet.
Brace yourselves. Winter is coming.
In Christmas of 2013, in Houston, Texas, a 1-year-old girl called Aurelia received a present, and she just couldn't let it go.
Brilliant.
And he's gone home. He's had enough. So it was an Elsa doll from Disney's Frozen, and when you pressed the necklace, it sang "Let It Go" in English or Spanish. Now, over a period of several years, the family started to notice that it would start singing on its own, even when it was turned off.
In backwards
Assuming,
Latin.
so assuming it was broken, Aurelia's mother Emily eventually decided it was time to let it go.
You're not getting a second.
And,
You're not getting a second one.
and her husband Matt threw it out. He tied it up in a bag. He put it in the bin outside. Fast forward a week, and they're looking for something. They open up a big wooden bench in the living room, and there's the doll. Matt starts yelling. Emily runs in, and Matt swears he'd definitely thrown it out. So they check with the kids whether they'd taken it back out of the rubbish, and they all say no. Weirded out, Matt tightly wraps it again in its own rubbish bag, puts that bag inside another bag filled with other rubbish, and then he puts it in the bottom of the bin underneath a bunch of other bags and wheels it to the curb for collection the next day. He's really trying to hide it this time, assuming one of the kids must have found it. They head out of town for a while, and they forget all about it. But on their return, Aurelia says, "Mum, saw the Elsa doll again in the backyard." And sure enough, when Emily looks, it's leaning casually against the side of the house. So where is Elsa now? Well, Emily ended up mailing the doll to a friend called Chris, who lives 1,500 miles away from her, and he offered to take the seemingly haunted toy off of her hands. Emily is quoted as saying that the last thing she did when I put her in a box to mail her to my friend was laugh for 30 seconds straight. She wrote she has never done that before. Her friend Chris describes himself as a skeptic that doesn't believe in ghosts or magic, and he said that he offered to take the doll because it makes the story funny that she mailed the doll to him. However, whether it was for Emily's benefit or his, he duct taped the doll to the brush guard on his Jeep to ensure she stays put.
Wow. That's yeah, that is, I mean, you could maybe think like the doll ending back up after being in the bin, maybe the it was making noise in the bin and the binmen who were emptying it were like, "Oh, look, they've thrown this away. Maybe I'll just put it there." But I don't know, it's a bit creepy.
It's buried. Yeah. Does that not remind you of the end of Toy Story 3?
Hey, buddy, you might want to keep your mouth shut.
I'm just thinking of a sort of this Mad Max kind of Elsa strapped to the front of the truck, like driving along with sort of singing "Witness Me." But it would be creepy. It would be creepy. I'll be tempted to, I don't know, set fire to it or, mail it to the Arctic Circle. Although the cold,
I think I read.
the cold doesn't
Oh.
bother her anyway, so maybe not.
He went there.
I went there.
I think that I did see somewhere, I think that someone had suggested that she might burn it or something, and I think she was worried about whatever was trapped inside it might get released and wouldn't know where it would end up. So, a la Chucky, I guess.
There's my next one. My one's going to be, it's a bit of a darker one, to be honest.
Okay, go for it.
So, in 1970, a young woman received a birthday present from her mother. Donna, who had just turned 28, was a practicing nurse. She lived with her friend and fellow nurse Angie, sharing a 2-bedroom apartment. They sort of lived near the hospital they worked at. Now, opening her present, inside she found a doll, which is a Raggedy Ann doll, if you remember those.
Yeah.
Not the sort of porcelain style ones that we usually associate with being murderous and horrible, although now I'm thinking of Elsa dolls as well.
I think my sister might have had a Raggedy Ann.
I think they were based on a character from the early 1900s. But yeah, they're sort of around everywhere. It's you know the ones I mean, sort of red hair and yeah. She was delighted with it, showing it to Angie before setting it down on the corner of her sofa and heading out to work. When she returned after a long shift, she smiled as she saw the doll again. It was in the same place, though his legs were crossed instead of sort of splayed out, and it was slightly at a different angle, and she just assumed that, oh look, Angie's been playing around with it. She had an early start the next morning, so she went to bed. Waking early, she tidily made her way to the bathroom across the hall before stopping. Angie wasn't home, her shoes were not by the door, she hadn't come home, which wasn't unusual. She worked a lot of night shifts. But the doll wasn't on the sofa anymore, it was sort of on the floor across the room. It started to freak her out a little bit, but she sort of picked it up and sort of just, kind of said, "Where are you off to?" Put it back down and went off to work. She wasn't the only one who was experiencing this, however. One day Angie came home to find the doll in her room. She assumed that Donna had played a trick on her, only to find she was out and hadn't been home either. So they sort of started originally putting it down to someone moving it and then not remembering it, or it just falling down. But then it started to get a bit too much. They'd take it to the living room, and then it'd end up in one of their bedrooms. And they hadn't heard anyone moving around. They were a little scared, but still kind of amused. They had a friend, a chap named Lou, who used to go over there a lot. Now he was a bit more concerned. As soon as he looked at the doll after hearing the stories, he said that he had a bad feeling about it. He even suggested it may be possessed by an evil spirit or a ghost, but the girls sort of laughed it off, insisting that it done no harm. Besides, it was probably still just them being forgetful and forgetting where they put it. Things would take a darker turn, proving Lou right though. The doll increased its movements, reportedly once actually levitating its arms as it sat on a shelf in front of the two girls. Even more worryingly, notes started to appear on this parchment-like paper that none of them knew where it come from, with scratches on it that looked kind of very much like "Help Me" or "Help Lou." The final tipping point was when Donna came home one day to find the doll on her bed. This wasn't unusual. However, by the time this had happened, there was actually something on the doll as well. It appeared to be blood on its arms. This was enough for the woman to take Lou and the situation quite seriously, and so a psychic investigator was called. He sat down in the room with the girls and the doll, and after wandering around the apartment and the surrounding area for a while, he told them what he thought had happened. He said that the building was a fairly new one, and there used to be fields there. Only a few decades before, he went on to say that a young girl of around 7 years old had been found dead there, her spirit remaining in the area. And as the spirit had been lonely, like the doll, like the girls, it had attached itself to the doll and wanted to stay with them. Now, many others, myself included, would probably at this point decided to get rid of it or have it exorcised or take off and nuke the entire site from orbit, personally. But Donna and Angie were nurses. They were caring, compassionate people. Hearing the tragic story, they both agreed they wanted the doll, spirit included, to remain, not wanting her to be left alone or feel rejected. After all, she wasn't doing any harm. Yet. Lou, however, wasn't convinced. As I said, he very much had a bad feeling about the doll. He would often complain of feeling unease around it, around the whole apartment. He would sometimes stay over as well, and he'd be sleeping on their sofa. As he did, he began to have very disturbing dreams about the toy. Where's your doll?
Tell me.
Yeah, it's not.
What? That's weird. She never moves. She's been there for. We've been recording with her there since July, I think. Now.
Ocean hasn't come and played with her or anything. No, just.
No, the door's locked. I'm in the studio.
I think I'm gonna.
Weird.
A bit stronger. Cooler. So, one day when he was dozing on the sofa, he woke with a start, or so he thought, to find the doll crawling up his leg. He tried to scream, but he couldn't move. The doll moved up its body, its unchanging expression fixed on him, as it got closer and closer to his head. As it reached his throat, he felt it attempting to strangle him, and then he actually woke up in a cold sweat. The doll was indeed on the sofa with him, but it was at his feet. He felt breathless and his throat hurt. The final straw came a few weeks later. He and Angie were in her room. This may have been due to his reluctance to be alone there, or perhaps he and Angie had a thing going. I don't know. But what we do know is they reportedly heard a noise coming from Donna's room. Now, Donna was out, and they both froze. They knew it was the doll. And so, perhaps despite their better judgment, the pair crept into their friend's room. The doll was indeed there, although not on the bed where it usually was, but upright on the chair. Lou had finally had enough. He went through the room, stormed in, plucked up the doll, screaming at it that it was done, this stupid thing, and he threw it towards the wall. As he did, he suddenly felt dread creep over him, and then a searing pain lanced across his chest and his back. They both fled the room. Back in Angie's room, they lifted his shirt to reveal he had claw marks, what looked like claw marks going across his chest, over his back, at his neck, angry red lines, almost like faded scars.
Pinky.
They healed within a few days, conveniently, but not before Donna too had been shown them. Now, they knew whatever they were dealing with was more than some mere spirit of a lonely child, and so they turned to expert help. Soon they were visited by a priest and a husband and wife pair of investigators of the supernatural who specialised in cases like this. They quickly dismissed the initial medium's idea of a child's spirit, saying how this was actually something far, far worse. A demon masquerading as a spirit, and that demon could not inhabit objects merely attached to them. The demon, they said, had its black heart set on Don's soul. The priest set about exercising the apartment, and the investigators offered to take the doll with them, deeming it too dangerous to remain in the house. Straight away, Donna, Angie, and Lou agreed they had had enough. The couple drove hundreds of miles home, choosing to take the slower roads back in case the demon caused any trouble. Even though it was weakened temporarily, they supposed, by the priest's actions. As it happened, the entire journey was plagued with mechanical trouble, the car breaking down, blowing a tyre, all sorts of things. Luckily, the seasoned hunters of the supernatural prepared for this, having asked the priest to give them some extra holy water to sprinkle on the thing as they were moving. When the pair got home, the doll first remained fairly quiet, living on a desk, not really doing much, but it wasn't too long before it got up to its old tricks. This time it would move while they could see it in the corner of their eyes, as if it was mocking them. Once they even reported seeing the whole thing levitate. The priest was called back, who sprinkled more holy water, said some prayers, but didn't really take it seriously, claiming his power was limited and it would not hurt them. Apparently the doll took this as an affront, taking it quite personally. The priest, on his way home, suffered a car accident and flipped his car, was quite badly hurt, and it took him months to recover. He survived, but he didn't go back to work with the doll again. The couple decided the thing they needed to do was contain it, and so they constructed a special glass case with a cross attached to it. A note attached to that box says, "Do not touch." There it remains to this day, sitting among a collection of many, many other haunted items and cursed objects collected over the years by Ed and Lorraine Warren. The doll too had a name, and as it wasn't some porcelain doll, as I said, it was a Raggedy Ann doll, and of course Donna gave it a proper name, Annabelle.
Yes, unfortunately, the Warrens are involved, which puts a sprinkle of bullshit over the whole thing.
Yeah, I was going to save my skepticism to the end, but I don't think we've ever really let our
we've mentioned it
the
before.
Warrens.
And
But, yeah,
the Raggedy Ann, I think the Raggedy Ann doll is creepier than the one they used in the film.
I think the reason they didn't go for it wasn't the creepy factor; it was the fear of getting sued.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
But yeah, it's why I did the Warren reveal last, because yeah, I didn't want to watch the skepticism creep over your face quite just yet.
I knew the story.
No, really?
Yeah. It's funny, isn't it? Because like there aren't that many well-known, at least, creepy doll stories. Like I tried to find some more obscure stuff, but there's literally a handful of like famous stories, and then that's it.
I've taken the low hanging fruit. I've gone for some of the famous ones because I like them.
Yeah.
And it's Halloween.
Yeah.
Or
Well,
close enough.
nearly.
It's Halloween season.
Yeah.
It's pumpkin spice season, son.
I was gonna go for I was gonna see if you'd notice if I did a story about Charles Lee Ray inhabiting a doll.
Oh, I know. I think I know what you're talking about, but go on.
I was tempted to write a bit that's child's play. It's Chucky. And see whether you'd cotton on that I was just using a plotline for a film.
It's been so long since I've watched Chucky.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
I mean, it's worth mentioning. I get my one mention right per episode on the X-Files. So Brad Dourif in the X-Files. Have you seen that one?
I think I know the one you mean.
It's called Beyond the Sea, and he's a convict that's he's on death row, but he's like a clairvoyant, and he's kind of giving them messages about a current serial killer in a bid to try and
it's been a while.
in a bid to save his own life. Yeah, really good episode. One of my favorites actually. And that ends the X-Files segment.
There you go.
Yeah, but yeah, we can't go through creepy dolls and not mention Chucky. I mean, I was watching Child's Play when I was probably a little bit too young. I think I was probably 10 or so.
Well, it
And
kind
we
of
had like,
expanded, didn't it? You know, with the series and Bride of Chucky, Seed of Chucky, all of it. Cult of Chucky.
yes, I watched Cult of Chucky just the other day, and I watched the Curse of Chucky just before we recorded today.
You were really getting in the
Big
mood.
fan. I love it. I love the Child's Play franchise. I think it's brilliant. They embraced the comedy when they moved on and relaunched it. It came back with a lot more humor. It's a bit more tongue in cheek.
Maybe we need to do a watch through. I'd say Annabelle, but you'd just be there like throwing shit at the TV every time the Warrens come on, you know? Don't care they're actors, just, you know, boo.
Boo. Down with this sort of stuff. So I'll do a serious story again. So it's a bit more sinister than the Elsa doll.
Good.
So
Sinister.
so yeah, this story takes us to Japan.
Well, everything's creepier in Japan. Ghosts, everything. They do it properly there.
So deep in the heart of Japan, within the hallowed halls of Menenji Temple, resides a peculiar and unsettling figure, Okiku. She's been enshrined there since 1938, a small doll standing 40 centimeters tall and dressed in a traditional kimono with black hair cut to shoulder length. The story goes that in 1918, a young boy named Ikiki Suzuki purchased the doll for his 2-year-old sister Ikiku during a visit to a marine exhibition, and Ikiku and her new doll became inseparable. Until, rather sadly, the little girl died from, I've read varying accounts of this, but some kind of flu, some kind of virus. Yeah. And she was only 3 years old.
So what year was this?
1918.
It could be the Spanish flu.
As I say, there's variations on viruses and flu, but I'm not sure. But yeah, she was only 3. Devastated by their loss, Ikiku's family put her favorite doll on the household altar where they prayed in memory of Ikiku. Before long, the family noticed that the hair on Ikiku's doll had begun to grow, as if the hair was on the head of a human.
Ooh.
The family concluded that the restless spirit of Ikiku, who died so young, was now inside her beloved doll. The doll remained with Ikiku's family until 1938, when they moved to Uwamazawa, apologies Japan, and they gave the doll to the Menenji Temple, where she remains enshrined to this day. The temple named the doll Ikuku after the little girl, and some believe that the hair continues to grow from her head, and that is the child Ikiku. There's a priest that cuts her hair, and he was said to have received a message from Ikiku in his dreams asking him to keep her hair trimmed.
Wow. I mean, yeah, I was going to ask if it still seemed to grow.
So, yeah, it was reported that in the first few days of her stay in the temple, her hair grew 10 inches, reaching down to her knees. And every year, the hair needs to be trimmed, and the doll's hair is now kept trimmed to just below shoulder length. There are claims that the temple refused to allow the doll to be disassembled and analysed, but others claim the temple did allow some of the hair to be trimmed and tested, and determined that it was indeed the hair of a real child. But, Andy, the tale doesn't end there.
Oh?
There are rumours that the doll's mouth is slowly opening, revealing a set of human teeth.
Ugh. I don't know why that makes it like so much worse. Teeth, you know, there's something about teeth.
Creepy, right?
It's like those fish that have like really human-looking teeth.
It's just the idea that even if, because we're skeptics on this show, right? And the idea that if that's happening, there must be evidence of it happening, which means that at least as a minimum, there's a human out there that's carefully putting teeth inside this doll's mouth when no one's looking.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't be unheard of back then. Quite often with dolls and toys, that they'd sort of use human hair for them. But Yeah, as you say, there's someone putting teeth in it and like just trimming hair and saying, "Oh, look, here are the trimmings," or like carefully putting it in, which
Yeah.
just weird. If it's not supernatural, it's just weird.
Yeah. Um, I'm just gonna turn my light on because I'll be honest, we said we'd record in the daylight, didn't we? And
Yeah, in true Wyrd Wessex fashion, we've waffled on.
it's getting a bit dark in here, to be honest.
It
And I
is.
still don't know where that doll's gone.
Yeah, I guess Craig's scared of the dark, and ah,
Oh.
um, found your doll.
Yeah.
uh,
I don't know. I mean, we're recording like we give the game away a bit, but it's Friday the 13th today. We've had a few weird things happen today, and now this.
I mean, my weird things were like my notes got deleted and I had to retype them. I couldn't find my cable for the camera. There's weird,
Connection
weird.
issues. I'm just gonna
Burn the recording studio down.
let's just yeah. I'm just gonna put this over here.
You've got her under lock and key now, right?
Well, she's where I can see her. I think I'll leave the light on. I don't know. I think it was safer before I got up, to be honest.
I don't know. It's if you turn the light off, she might be somewhere else. She
I'm not
made me
going to
waste
tempt
good
it.
tea. It's a curse.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll just carry on, I guess.
I don't know if I want to tell my next one now. But I
Yeah,
will.
it's your turn. I mean, got any
Yeah.
creepy dolls?
As it happens. I
We
do.
never mentioned that I bought you a doll and you still refused to take it home.
Becky banned me. So now it's just cursing the Ancient Technology Centre.
Yeah.
We'll see. It might make its way home, possibly of its own volition if you got it from
Oh,
the same
just had a
place.
shiver. Oof.
You sure it's not round your back again, giving you a tickle?
No, I can see her now. She's staying where I can see her.
And she can see you. So I'm going to give a warning before this one. Not a trigger warning, kind of. This is a
Go on.
warning that there is a legend attached to this next story that seeing it or even hearing the tale can bring misfortune or worse.
Nope.
So Craig just notes out. So yes, anyone who really doesn't want that and is
All
worried
right,
about
I'll
that,
stay.
don't don't close the window. We don't close the podcast down. We want you to come back, but just skip forward about sort of 5-10 minutes. Um, but yes, those of you who are sticking around, we'll get on with it. In 2003, in the shady backstreet market known as eBay, a doll was listed for sale. This was a composition doll, which, for those of you unaware, they tend to have sort of partly made of cloth and wool and partly made of a composite of other things like sawdust, glue, cornstarch, and pure nightmare. The doll's name was Harold, and Greg, the owner, had bought the doll from a market for around $20. Now, when he bought it, it was already apparently cursed, as the man he bought it from reported that he'd heard the sounds of crying, laughter, and singing from his son's bedroom. Thing is, his son had been dead for 3 months by that point.
Ooh.
But Greg either didn't believe this tale or was one of those dark tourists who were gluttons for punishment, and punishment he would get. Apparently, within days of buying the doll, Greg reportedly felt sick repeatedly, started getting migraines. His girlfriend broke up with him, possibly for bringing home a creepy doll. I'm learning. And to top it all off, his cat died. A local priest apparently instructed him to burn the thing, but he could not, for some reason, bring himself to do it. He locked it in a box and put the box in his basement. Then, some nights later, he would start hearing crying and laughter and noises as if from children from the basement. Eventually, Greg's eBay listing, having finally decided to get rid of this doll, was answered after gaining hundreds of thousands of views. One person apparently agreed to buy it and then backed out at the last moment, but another woman agreed. Now, she was in Ireland. This is in America. She was in Ireland, and her name was Kathy. And she bought it for the tidy sum of $300. Bit of a markup there for old Greg.
Wow.
Buying a new cat, I guess. Taking a new girl on some dates, getting some headache tablets. She planned to restore the doll. She too experienced bad luck. Traveling to the United States from Europe, she was going to pick up the doll when she was going over anyway to see her aunt and soon to be uncle, her aunt's fiance. Now, she immediately felt the wrath of whatever curse was upon it. Her aunt, whom she was visiting, laughed when she saw the thing, and the very next day, she got a herniated disc and had to go home from work and stay at home for quite some time. Then her aunt's fiance got a bad back. Turns out he had a herniated disc, and Kathy then started getting back problems. To add to this, not only were they in great pain when the wedding came, I think the husband actually had to do the vows from a wheelchair. The cruise that they all booked together afterwards saw further sickness mean that her aunt and now uncle couldn't go. So she decided, and apparently, as she had no companions to go with anymore on this cruise, decided to take Harold with her. She experienced lots more problems on the cruise, apparently falling sick. Her luggage got lost. Turns out 2 days before the end of the cruise, it was in someone else's room. It had put in there, and the guy just hadn't bothered to mention anyone. This luggage was in another room. Harold was in the luggage, and it's unclear whether the chap in the room had any ill luck, but a load of things. She kept losing things. Things were delayed. But finally, she got back off the cruise, stepped off the boat back on into America or New York, I believe. She decided it would be tempting to fate too much if she travelled on a plane back to Ireland with Harold. So, yeah, I'd say that's fair. So she mailed it back to herself. And she kept it in her house. Now, this ill fortune would turn deadly, apparently. Two traveling friends visited her, John and Veronica, who were heading from America, stopped off in Ireland with her, and then were going on to Amsterdam. Now, they asked to see Harold, as Veronica was apparently collecting antiques and things like that. This is a very old doll, and was apparently interested in these sort of things. She was quite amused when she heard Harold's story and the apparent curse and started taking the mickey out of its look. It was quite a, it's, if anyone wants to have a look at a picture of Harold, it's a fairly freaky looking doll. No offense, Harold. And
you've mentioned his name a few times now.
I know,
you said
I
not
know.
to.
So, yeah, she didn't really take it seriously despite Kathy's warnings. Only days later, Kathy got a call from John when they were in Amsterdam, and apparently Veronica had fallen down some steps while exploring the city and died of her injuries. They took a lodger, so her Kathy's fiance was a guy called Rick, and they had a spare room. And they'd put Harold in the spare room. They didn't want him in the room with them. I don't know why they kept hold of him, but they did. And they just kind of left him in a box there. Now, they took a lodger on. Now, this lodger was fit, healthy, young guy. Within months, he started feeling sick. He couldn't swallow properly. Shortly afterwards, he was diagnosed with cancer, stage 4. He fell ill and died within the year. Then it seemed to come out of nowhere. And within a year, with 2 deaths attributed to Harold and a boatload of bad luck, he was back on eBay once more. Now, a chap called Anthony Quinata, who lived in Mexico, or lives in Mexico, who is apparently a collector of haunted objects, but a bit of a skeptic, and apparently makes up for this lack of common sense with balls made of titanium, bought the doll despite repeated warnings from Kathy, although obviously she did want to get rid of the doll as well, and I don't think he paid that much for it. But he was sure to get a log of events from Kathy, so he learned all this stuff that happened with Harold. He was skeptical at first. Curiosity had him make the purchase, and he would become convinced of Harold's curse as well, leading to heartache, exorcisms, and a book actually written by him about the whole saga. The saga, which is deeper, goes deeper, and is ongoing to my knowledge as well. I'm actually going to leave it there. I was going to do the whole thing, and it was a lengthy story, but I may want to do a whole episode dedicated to Harold at some point. And yeah, I'm going to leave it there, but it is there to check out. So Anthony Quinata and Harold the Doll, explore at your own peril. But yes, it does go deeper into it. Demons are mentioned, but again, it's really lengthy to go through everything, and I wouldn't want to miss anything out. So I think maybe that is an episode for a time, another time.
Unless you die in the meantime.
In which case, I become part of the saga. Just when you're telling my bit of the story, make sure you mention Wyrd Wessex.
I'll tell your bit, but we'll change the name of the doll because I'm not saying the name for.
Or maybe the curse is you have to tell someone else, and then the curse is lifted from you. I don't know. It doesn't seem like it by the sounds of it. But I want to make it clear that I'm not mocking Harold like those other people were. But yeah, it's
he
a
says as he smirks. He's smirking. Harold is smirking. He's laughing at you, Harold. Come for him.
So yeah. Well,
all right. Yeah.
Sorry
I've looked at an image. It's a little bit creepy.
You've looked at an image, you're doomed.
Yeah.
I mean, you've already got a doll walking around your house, apparently. You're wearing your studio, so
currently she's more danger than he is. So, maybe we can have like a doll fight off. Just like she'll protect me from Harold.
Yeah, that's it. Fighting over your soul.
Maybe. Kaluma.
Have you got anything else for us? Maybe something that won't curse us.
Yeah, this is going to be a long episode, I think, because I've got 2 more.
I've got 1 more.
All right. Well, I'll do. Yeah. Okay. So let's crack on because time is getting on. So this story takes us to Australia.
Crikey.
Apologies, Australia. In 1972, there's a guy called Kerry Walton, and he returns to his Australian hometown to attend his grandmother's funeral. During his visit, he decides to confront a childhood fear by exploring an abandoned building that had haunted him for years. As he ventures through the dilapidated structure, he makes a startling discovery: an old marionette nestled beneath the porch. Ooh. Intrigued and compelled, Walton brought the doll home. The marionette, which he named Letta, was unlike any he had seen before. Local psychics claimed it was crafted over 200 years ago by a Romanian gypsy for his drowned son. According to gypsy beliefs, dolls could serve as vessels for the spirits of the deceased, allowing them to continue their existence in a different form. Letta was a peculiar creation. It had real human hair and a remarkably lifelike human brain beneath its scalp. Its name Letta was reportedly derived from its European gypsy heritage, or from the chilling screams it occasionally emitted.
Let me out!
Oh no.
Look, this is a deadly serious story, Andy. Don't laugh at the dolls, they're all coming for you. So despite its unsettling origins, Letta has not caused any overt acts of malice in recent years. In fact, Walton's fortunes had improved significantly since he acquired the doll, and his collectibles business has flourished. However, there were still peculiar occurrences associated with Letta. So whenever Walton took the doll outside, it would inevitably rain. Inside, pictures would inexplicably fall from walls in Letta's presence. Dogs would bark and growl aggressively at the doll, and people often reported feeling a fear and sadness when they saw it. There were even claims that Letta was capable of moving on its own, shifting positions while seated and emitting a subtle pulse when held. I guess like a heartbeat. That's how I imagined it, like a boop, 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 boop.
Just to add, the last story That particular doll was also reported to sometimes feel like there was a heartbeat or a pulse.
What you got?
This one is a little bit different. So this one is about an island. Uh,
We're doing dolls.
It's to do with dolls. It is La Isla de las Muñecas, which translates into the Isle of the Dead Dolls.
We're gonna like, sorry, Spain, or where is this?
It's Mexico.
Sorry, Mexico. Andy's sorry. And
So
Henry.
in Mexico, there are some relics of the time of the Aztecs. One of these things is the I believe it's pronounced the Chinampas, which is it's basically a series of irrigation canals around like man-made islands that were used for like farming. These islands were well irrigated and they were used for sort of growing their crops. Now, there's not many of them left around Mexico City, but to the south there is an island which is the subject of this story. Now, this island, since the time of Cortez and the conquistadors, people were hiding out there, people were seeking refuge there, being hunted down there. So it's got a bit of a dark past already. And a similar thing happened during the Mexican Revolution. Fast forward to present day, or well, a few decades ago, a man was responsible for looking after the island, growing things on there, by the name of Julian Santana Barrera. Now, he would go to the island daily, he had a little shack on there that he'd live on most of the time, and he would just go about his daily chores. One day he left his hut, walked down to the shore, where he found, because it used to be very, very clear water there before Mexico City really built up and there was a lot more pollution. And as he looked down, he saw the lifeless form of a young girl in the water. It turned out that she'd been out swimming with her sisters, had been swept away and sadly drowned. So he took her body back to the city, gave it over for a burial, and found out the story. Went back. The next morning, he came out again, and near enough exactly where she was, there was a doll floating by the river, just near his hut. He took this as a sign. He wasn't quite sure of what yet, so he brought it in, he placed it on a tree nearby, and left it there. However, things started to get weird. Things started to get nasty. He started having sort of just this horrible feeling of unease come over him. He'd see shadows moving in the corner of his eye, weird shapes under the moonlight. His crop started failing, and he was convinced that it was something to do with the spirit of this girl. And so he took the doll and built an altar and put the doll on the altar, lit candles, prayed for this girl's spirit and prayed for the misfortunes to cease, but they didn't. He and his wife were trying to have children. They couldn't. They just couldn't have children. They never had children. But his family, his extended family, were coming and helping him out. And what he started doing was bringing in more dolls. He decided that the original doll was a sign. So he brought in more dolls and started putting them places. He'd find himself rooting through trash for dolls and placing them about the island, bartering things for them that he'd find washed up. And soon the island gradually started getting more and more dolls dotted around it. Fast forward to present day, now it's under the stewardship of his nephew, Rogelio Sanchez Santana. And he does not live on the island. He will not live on the island. He does have a family. He has been able to have children. And that family care for the island. And it's kind of become a bit of a dark tourist spot. People will pay to get taken over on flat-bottom boats to the island. And they will have a look around, they'll take pictures, and they will leave their own dolls there. And there are now thousands of these dolls on the island. And people do stay quite late. They stay overnight. And some of these are in creepy disrepair, these dolls. There's lots, and they've been there for a long time. Now, people swear that they see the eyes following them as they walk past. They see them move, especially people that have stayed over. And he has said that even though his family take care of it, he doesn't think his children will want to. And people say, what will happen to the island? And he rightly says that the island doesn't really belong to him or his family. It belongs to the dead and the dolls. So yeah, it's just a short one and not quite along the same vein, but equally horrifying. Would you stay there?
For the podcast, do anything, mate.
Excellent. Well,
But
you've got a few grand.
that is one of the creepiest, I think, of the ones we've told.
There is something about that, you know.
The whole island of creepy dolls.
I think what
Yeah.
makes it worse being an island is the fact that you can't as easily get away if you want to.
Yeah. Reminds me though, when I was in Scotland, I went to Edinburgh and we did a ghost tour that went down under the.
Yep, I know the one with the dolls.
And there's a fireplace with loads of dolls.
So I mean, when you realise like generations of people lived and died in those tunnels as well, you know, that was a whole underground city basically.
Yeah, man.
But
Creepy.
just to add to that last story, the original caretaker, Julian, he died on the island. Apparently, he walked out one day and killed over on the very spot that he saw the dead girl and where he found that original doll. And this is from his nephew, who is convinced to this day that the spirit of the girl reached up, grabbed him, and dragged him down.
All right, so I've got one final story that I haven't written this in the notes, but you're not supposed to say his name. So this is
Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice. No, sorry.
Beetlejuice wasn't a doll. No, this is the doll. We'll see whether I get to say his name because I've written it many times throughout this, but I've just realised that you're not supposed to say it. So
could you shorten it to Bob? Is it that doll?
Maybe.
Call him Bob.
No, because he might be offended. We'll call him Jeff. No, there's a talking mongoose called Jeff. Let's go for Annabelle. No.
Harold, no.
Chucky, no. Oh, fuck. All right. His name was Robert. All right. So this is Robert the doll. So I'm going to start by saying apologies, Robert. We mean no offense. Robert currently resides in the East Martello Museum in Key West, Florida. The doll has reportedly caused car accidents, broken bones, job losses, divorce, and an abundance of other misfortunes. Museum visitors supposedly experience post-visit misfortunes for failing to respect Robert. So again, Robert, we're not being disrespectful. His story begins in the early 1900s when a young boy named Eugene Robert Otto was given the doll as a gift from a servant working for his family. Gene, as he was affectionately known, quickly formed a deep attachment to his new companion, naming him Robert. The Otto family's home, now referred to as the artist house, was the setting for Gene's unsettling encounters with Robert. Strange and often terrifying incidents began to occur soon after the doll arrived. Gene would frequently wake up to find Robert sitting at the end of the bed, staring at him intently. His screams would alert his mother, who would rush to the room to find the boy curled up in fear, the room in disarray, and Robert sitting ominously at the foot of the bed. These incidents were far from isolated, with Gene's parents reporting hearing their son talking to the doll, receiving responses in a voice that was directly not his own. They even claimed to witness the doll speaking and observing its expression change. Giggling, sightings of Robert running up the stairs, and reports of the doll staring out the window were also common occurrences. Robert remained a constant presence in Gene's life. Even after his parents passed away, Gene's wife Anne was deeply unsettled by the doll and tried to persuade her husband to lock it away in the attic. However, Robert seemed to have a mind of his own. Visitors to the home reported hearing footsteps in the attic, the sound of someone pacing back and forth, and eerily giggling. Neighborhood children would claim that they could see Robert watching them from the upstairs window, even mocking them as they walked to school. After Gene's death in 1974, a new family moved into the house. Their 10-year-old daughter was initially delighted to discover Robert in the attic. However, her joy quickly turned to fear as she claimed the doll was alive and wanted to harm her. She frequently woke up in the middle of the night screaming, reporting that Robert had moved around the room. To escape the doll's torment, the family eventually gave Robert away. So, as I said before, today he resides in the East Martello Museum in Key West in Florida, where visitors from around the world come to see him. Many believe the origin of Robert's malevolent nature lies with the servant who gave him to Jean. It is rumored that the servant, mistreated by her employers, cursed the doll using voodoo and black magic as a form of revenge. Whether Robert is truly possessed or simply a product of human imagination and superstition, his story continues to captivate and frighten people. Visitors to the museum often report feeling uneasy, having cameras malfunction, and experiencing other strange occurrences. Robert receives fan mail, but they aren't typical fan letters, they're often apologies. Many visitors attribute post-visit misfortunes to failing to respect Robert, or sometimes openly disrespecting him, and they write begging for forgiveness. Others ask for advice or to hex those that have wronged them. Guests also leave him sweets and money and occasionally joints.
Well, camera malfunctions. I think I'm cursed for that already.
Yeah, man. So that is a very brief rundown of Robert the Doll,
So
who we respect,
we do, just like Harold.
and all the rest of them. We are not worthy.
So yeah, I actually, sort of part of the research, sort of in the lazy sense, I do not only read up on these subjects, but I also do listen to other podcasts and YouTube channels, things like that,
How
just
dare you?
little tidbits here and there. And there was a couple of YouTubers that talked about the Harold story and mentioned after doing the research and talking about it, one of them got kidney stones, one of them, their car broke down. But again, this can be. Well, I guess that
Yeah.
kind of leads us on to what do you make of it all? What's your opinion?
With all due respect to all of them, you're creepy as fuck. And I'm gonna play it safe and say, please don't hurt me.
Ah, well, I mean, barring sort of belief in ghosts or in demons, in the case it's supposed to have been demons rather than spirits. Yeah, it's. I think it's more just it goes back to that point we were talking about earlier. With the phobias, it comes down to that phobia, doesn't it?
I don't see any reason why they would be trapped inside a doll, and a lot of the activity happens outside of the doll. So I don't know. I do think it's like an uncanny thing, and I mean, there's the theory as well that, like with Robert the doll, there's Eugene would blame the doll for things that potentially he had done, and that maybe he created a bit like a tulpa. I don't think we've spoken about tulpas before.
I don't think we have.
No. So tulpa's like a creation, right? It's like something that, and he's gone.
I'm here. I'm
And
just
he's
playing
and
the
he's
camera.
back. Yeah. Whether a tulpa is like a creation, isn't it? It's like, I don't know how you'd explain it. It's like something, it's like a thought form. That's the best way to put it. And
Yeah.
so whether somehow Eugene put something inside Robert by blaming him over and over again for things that he was doing, whether that
Yes.
then puts something into the doll. So it's not a spirit as such.
But just like a feeling and energy, I guess.
Yeah, and that causes things to occur. So I mean that's another theory. Sorry, I'm just checking. He's not moved again. Right. Unlock your iPhone first. Apparently, I need to unlock my iPhone first. So my phone's playing up too now.
Oh no.
So yeah, if we don't make the 5 episodes for October, you now know why.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it is one of those things. It is like undoubtedly one of the most creepy. But yeah, I'm sat here with. I mean, I do have camera problems, but if anyone's watching this on YouTube rather than listening to it, my
This is
camera
common.
just keeps blinking and blinking, but it's doing it a bit more today than it usually does. So you know.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of on the confirmation bias thing, so I feel like now we've spoken about dolls, so anything negative that happens to one of us,
Exactly, exactly. It's like my money spell worked because I found a quid on the floor, and it's like, yeah, what about all the times that you found a quid on the floor and haven't done a money spell? Or,
yeah,
it's, but I mean, I'll get this in because Becky will hit me otherwise, but there is something to be said for manifestation, even if it is just in a, you'll get athletes being told to, I'm going a bit off topic now, admittedly, but talking about the power of thought and positive thinking or negative thinking, like, athletes, for example, they're taught to manifest winning, not because it's a magical power, but because you're a lot more likely to even subconsciously work your way towards a goal if you are thinking it's going to happen, if that makes
mm,
sense. And maybe as soon as you're aware of it being a cursed doll, bad things starts happening because you sort of open yourself up to it a bit more,
maybe.
and even
So
things that
we,
you might not see as a bad thing suddenly become a bad thing because of that, or you're in a bad mindset, and
yeah.
so you take it in a bad way.
So, for instance, I'm going to get into trouble after we finish this podcast because I've taken way too long and I'm supposed to be making
Exactly,
pizza.
exactly.
Is that Robert's fault? No, Robert, we apologize.
So yeah, that's about it for creepy dolls, I think. I hope. I mean, you've still got one to deal with.
Yes. I might tie her to a stake or I don't know. We'll just lock her in. She'll be fine. She's been fine up until today. Weird.
She got a name.
We did come up with a name. What was the name? It was like Eliza or something in the end. Because Ocean wanted to call it Creepy Doll. That was the name.
I mean, it's what I call it, but
It's banned from
Eliza's
being in the house.
Eliza's a suitably creepy doll name.
So yeah, should we do some weird news? Let's get away from the dolls
Yes.
and do some weird news. What
Ah,
have you got for me?
right. Family adopt one of the UK's most haunted dolls, which growled at mum when they met.
Oh,
So,
come on. I said let's get away from it.
it's topical, I
All
guess.
right. Go on
Um,
and
I mean,
give us a rundown.
you're the one that wants to get away from the dolls, or one particular one. A family of four have added one of the most UK's most haunted dolls to their home, despite the spooky being growling at one of them on their very first meeting. JP Kenny, Kimmy Jeffrey, and their children, Snow and Pebble, decided to add a new family member to their family, Annie, who is one of the most haunted dolls in the UK. The family from Cheshire were contacted by its owner about rehoming the doll, knowing that they would be just the group to take it based on their love for ghosts and spirits. Kimmy said, "We have met her a few times. The first time was JP and I when we went to pick her up. She growled. The second time was
Grr.
when we took the girls with us, and she was very active. Both Snow and Pebble fell in love with her. Since bringing her home, the family explained how they've been experiencing incredibly weird activity through the house, such as doors slamming, star-shaped beings appearing, and an overall negative feeling on everyone. And they love it, apparently. The day we picked her up was quite an emotional day. They go on to talk about having a family day at the beach with Annie, and then to transition her into her family. They sort of took her out to the beach. And she stayed in the main house for 2 weeks. This is how we will work with all our haunted artifacts to help them settle. We cannot keep Annie in the main house for 2 weeks. We had lots of strange and negative happenings and decided to place her into our occult room. Of course, they got an occult room after 9 days, and we still
Wow.
experience heaviness and presence of someone not being happy with us. I love how like we're all scared of these dolls, and the dolls are like scared of them. So, oh no, it's that family. Now, I'm not going to throw shade on the family because they sound wonderful, and um, I'm not going to kid ourselves that we've got that many listeners yet, but they do look like a family that might listen to us. um, but yeah, that is the family, and they have an occult room. They
Of course they do.
you know,
They look way too happy about
that. But no, hats off to them. I think we need to get them on the show. And there's the doll, which kind of looks a bit too try hard to be that haunted in a way, like it's trying too much to be haunted.
that.
No disrespect, Annie. So I'm guessing you've got one that's not about dolls that will sort of kind of round us off in a slightly happier, less chilling place.
Yeah, I've got haunted doll in UK museum targets men and leaves one with mysterious scratches.
Okay.
So the owner of one of Britain's most haunted dolls claims that the doll has a particular disdain for men, often lashing out and leaving scratches on his back. The doll even reportedly tugged on a middleweight man's shirt while being filmed. Lee Steer was conducting a paranormal investigation with his partner Sarah Carter in the bridal doll room. It says that in quotations, not sure why. When he began to feel a burning sensation on his neck, Sarah was shocked to discover that there were red scratches all over Lee's back after he struggled to continue with the experiment. CCTV footage also showed Lee's friend John Paul Kenny being bothered as his pink shirt was pulled by an unseen hand. Lee believes the doll was attempting to disrupt John Paul's date night at the museum. Weird date night. John Paul had been filming a TikTok live video with his partner Kimmy Jeffrey in the bridal doll room. Lee thinks that the ghost named Elizabeth who supposedly inhibits the doll, caused the
Wait.
scratches.
Kimmy Jeffrey.
Yeah.
It's the same family.
Is it?
Yup. JP Kenny, Kimmy Jeffrey.
Oh, fuck.
What are the chances of that?
All right, I didn't catch that. So, where did I get to? Lee thinks that the ghost named Elizabeth was supposedly inhabits the doll, caused the scratches, and this isn't the first time she's attacked a man. Disturbing photos reveal red scratches in various directions on Lee's back, which Sarah believes form a pentagram. Lee suggests that people believe Elizabeth only scratches men because she was mistreated by a man in a past life, and her wedding day ended tragically. Over recent weeks, Lee has asserted that Elizabeth has intensified her mischievous antics by meddling with YouTubers' video recordings and triggering fire alarms. In a startling video clip capturing John Paul's frightening experience, his pink shirt is noticeably tugged from one side. Scary.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's the main thing. The father of two is convinced that Elizabeth targeted him because he bears a resemblance to her intended groom. He also claims to have caught a glimpse of a white dress during the incident. Having purchased the doll on eBay for, I don't even know if I should say, I mean, I think this is what we refer to in the occult world as a stupid tax.
Yes.
£866.
Wow.
Lee is now of the opinion that it could well be Britain's most supernaturally active doll, stating even Warner Brothers Horror Division has acknowledged its eerie presence as comparable to that of the notorious haunted ragdoll Annabelle.
Creepy and kooky.
What? What was that?
I was doing a bit of research while you were talking.
Okay. See, he doesn't listen, guys.
I was absolutely listening. That's why I did a bit of research.
So, yeah, Sarah says, and is quoted as saying, what terrified me the most was that Lee had to walk out of the investigation, and he never does this. I won't go through the bridal room because you have to walk through the room to get to the light switch, so it is pitch black when you first go in. If I ever do go in to switch the light on, she messes with her light switch, and she knows it unnerves me, and I hate it. We hate it, precious.
Oh, hates it.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, so lovely stories.
That were related.
I just did a bit looking up on that family. They go by the name the Occult family, and there's me thinking, oh no, I shouldn't bring too much attention to these people. Like I'm taking the Mickey. They've got like 30K followers on Facebook. They go by the Occult family.
All right, Occult's family, if you're listening and you want to come on
Um,
the show and defend yourselves.
I don't feel like they need to defend
Likewise,
themselves. I've got
likewise,
nothing
Robert the
against
Doll.
them.
If Robert the Doll wants to come on and defend himself with these accusations,
But yeah, they've been on ITV. They've been on
of course they have
So there
big
you go.
money. They're being paid for that shit.
They're part of big supernatural, big
They
occult.
get paid for this shit. We do it for the love, guys.
Please buy some merch.
And on that note,
Go on, do your bit.
so you can find us on social media and YouTube under Wyrd Wessex, WYRD. And we have our merch on the Redbubble store. In fact, I don't even know if Andy knows this. We have a new t-shirt design. It's the classic Cernavis giant, but his head's been changed for a pumpkin.
I've got to buy another t-shirt off ourselves now.
So it's a Halloween special. I don't know if it will stay up. It might come down after Halloween. So yeah, it might be limited edition. So get it while you can. And then we have the Cult of the Weird Facebook group where nobody says anything even when I post messages. So please join the conversation. It's very lonely for me out here.
Also, if you've you're right there.
Just realized that the doll's gone. I forgot to keep an eye on it when I was reading the news story.
Are you sure you just didn't forget where you put it? Because I swore you moved it.
Yeah, I put it over.
Okay.
Over. Do you remember
sure
I kept
you
saying
sure
I'm
you put it
watching,
there?
I can see it, and now.
All right. Well, if you go in a moment and just go and make pizza and try and forget about it. Also, if you want one of the Kurt Abbas Giants t-shirts with without the big willy, we do a tasteful one with a nice little fig leaf as well.
Yeah, I don't know where she's gone, which is. I'm gonna go back to the house and make pizza. I think.
But
What?
Behind
I haven't got a t-shirt.
you. So you didn't put her there. I thought you took her off screen.
Yeah, I put her over there.
I
what
meant no offense to you,
time.
Eliza. That's
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna lock this studio and go back to the house and make pizza.
Good luck. If you don't make it, I will be back in a week's time with my new co-host Eliza.
Yeah, so yeah, we'll be back next week if we can keep to this schedule we planned.
If we can keep within the world of the living.
I guess we should
until next time, stay safe and stay weird.
And her?